Hey there, Dustin here with Grace Bible Church, and we just had the privilege of hosting a leadership panel conversation with some of our local industry leaders as we gear up to host the Global Leadership Summit on August 5th and 6th. Now, we didn't just want a commercial inviting you to the summit, but we wanted a leadership deposit that will serve you as you continue leading others in your field of expertise. Now, without further ado, I hope that you enjoy this leadership conversation with some faces that you will instantly recognize and some that we can't wait for you to meet.
The first thing we're going to do, leaders, number one, is we're going to think inside the box. We're going to think inside the box. Now, wait a minute, Craig, I thought we're supposed to be creative and innovative and think outside the box. Do that every now and then. But don't necessarily start there, and let me prove it to you. The next time you have a meeting and somebody says, let's think outside the box, you watch as the next idea is always stupid on steroids. Every time. The problem with outside the box, listen, is there are unlimited options. It's like trying to find something to watch on Netflix or Amazon Prime. Can't figure out what to watch because there's unlimited options. You get on an international flight and there's only 12 movies to choose from and you want to watch 3 of them. Why? This is so important because constraints drive creativity. Constraints drive creativity. When you have options, you have to make decisions. And decisions drain your energy. You end up even living with decision fatigue. What do constraints do? Constraints eliminate options. Think inside the box. Let the constraints motivate you and drive you to innovate.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, great. So chances are that you guys have all been probably thinking inside the box this last year and a half throughout this global pandemic that you all have walked through really gracefully, and probably not even realizing that you were doing it, but out of necessity. So let's dive into a conversation and see how some of the leadership highs and lows that you guys have been walking through in your own individual organizations kind of match up with what Craig just said. So I want to start with Sheriff Blackman, if you don't mind. In light of the idea of constraints driving creativity, where did you get most hung up this last year?
Is this on?
Yes.
Okay. Myself and this young lady, we were trying to figure out how to turn these things on. So we just wanted to make sure, and I figured I would be the first one to go to make sure that it was turned on. So I think first I would like to say in 2019 is when I first got to see Greg Rochelle at the GLS Summit in Orlando, and it was simply amazing. And at that time, we were trying to apply that particular type of leadership style during emergencies within our county. And then at that time, everything was revolving around hurricanes and that sort of type of emergencies, where we were really trying to think, okay, what are the basic needs that our folks need after a situation like that, and how we can get those needs to our citizens that we serve and try to get life back to normal. Well, little did we know in 2020 we would be faced with the pandemic and the COVID, and again having to apply these types of leadership skills at the sheriff's office and how we could try to get life back to normal as quickly as possible, or so that our citizens that we serve feel safe. And some of the things that we saw right off the bat were trying to provide our deputies that were out in the neighborhoods and in the communities serving, to try to make them feel safe as well as the community that we're serving. And that was with PPEs and
Right.
that sort of thing, how we could get those as quickly as possible, get them in the hands of the folks that needed them so that everybody felt safe. So that's how we saw it initially.
Okay, great. Is there one specific glaring opportunity that you can discuss of how you and your team thought inside the box?
Just from a standpoint of which will stay with us probably forever,
Right.
is in the detention facility itself. Trying to take temperature checks and trying to make sure everyone is safe, or or not showing symptoms prior to coming inside the facility, immediately outside temperature checks, which we've never done before in the past.
Right.
That was one of the first things that we immediately did, and it will probably stay with us from now on, at least
Okay.
through the end of my career.
Okay, that's great. Thanks for sharing. Dr. Chen, similar question. Was your team able to think inside the box throughout this last year? And if so, did you discover any newer or better ways to operate within your field?
Yeah, I think one of the first things that he mentioned was the PPE was one of the things that came to mind. Initially, we were getting a lot of information about what to expect coming up and some of the new protocols. So the box got really small real quick. And one of the things that we thought about is, we prepare for hurricanes. Are we prepared for this? And so one of the things that I did with my team is I say, what are the resources that we have and what will we need to stay open? Because that was one of the concerns is, what if we do run out of something? What is going to happen? So thinking inside the box, we basically just counted our resources. And one of the first questions I asked each of the departments is, how long can you survive?
Great question.
And then that's the things we focused on first. So if it was like in a hurricane, gasoline, water, food, things like that, which we prepare for as a team as well, we talked about this. It's the unknown, but we knew that in order to stay in business, who wants to go to the dentist without getting a shot? Do we have enough of that? Do we have enough PPE for gloves? We're not going to recycle those, right?
Right.
So, it kind of put us in a little bit of a smaller box, okay, well, how much can we stuff in this box? So I hope I answered the question, but yeah, we had to get together as a team and figure out what moves are we going to make, and Kendall was very instrumental in this, in putting the teams together. She helps a lot with communication, because the feeling of safe is important.
Right.
And nobody likes to run out of toilet paper, right? So we had 3 months supply of toilet paper and things like that. We weren't hoarding, of course we used it all, but
Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, sure. That's the last thing you want to run out of with 30 employees.
Right.
But so we wanted to make sure there was enough for everyone and to be able to practice safely and have people still come through our doors. But you start from the inside out. You put the oxygen mask on first, right, in the airplane, and then so we had to make sure our team was taken care of safely, and then see how we can still operate if that's necessary.
And it sounds like by thinking inside the box, specific to the pandemic, that now you guys have the right questions to ask for whatever is going to come in this next season. Hopefully it's nothing like a global pandemic, but it sounds like you're ready to ask those questions. And there was a lot of questions that probably each of you asked within your own organizations this last year and a half. So how did you combat decision fatigue? Because just coming up with, okay, how are we going to stay open safely? How are we going to ensure that we have all that we need for the individuals that come to our office? How did you kind of work around decision fatigue? Or are you still feeling decision fatigue? And kind of which way are you going to go to make sure that you can go in the right direction? That's kind of open. Dr. Chen, if you have something to add to that, and then any others as well.
Leading up to the pandemic, we had been working on leadership for quite a while, and our team basically has values that we all share and run a business together, and I think that really helped us get through it.
Just working together, that really helped it. That you didn't have to answer all the questions. You had to work with your team.
Well, and then the thing is that it gets kind of, I guess I'm very fortunate to have a team that can help make those decisions versus I just didn't feel like isolated and alone. That happens a lot when you own your business. You don't know who to turn to. Well, I can turn to my team knowing that they have the same vision and we can work through this process together. And, you lock arm in arms and you get it done.
Absolutely.
But without the team, without building up to that and then going into the pandemic with a strong team, I think it would have been a different result. And so I think it's very important that we pour our time and energy into developing people on our team to handle things like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we went into it, I think, a little bit more prepared than if I was to imagine earlier in my career. I think it would be the same. So.
So we're hearing that leaders care well for their team, that you can't, as the main leader of an organization, do it all on your own because you are going to run into decision fatigue, and you're not equipping those around you to ensure that your whole organization is leading well in the community. So thank you for sharing that point. Krista, what about you? Decision fatigue. You have so many different programs within the Champion for Children Foundation that are affecting thousands of families and kiddos right here in the Heartland. So how did you guys combat decision fatigue?
Yes, I would say, echoing what Dr. Chen said, we also reaped the benefits of having established some of those parameters within our team as well. So far be it for any hurricane crisis or anything like that, I'm very blessed with my team and how we care for each other, how we support each other, so that when crisis comes or when major changes come, which we know they always will, we had those parameters already in place, the support systems, the way we can encourage each other, the way when you see someone struggling with something, you say, hey, let me take this off your plate so you can focus on that. So we did already have that in place already kind of as a team, so we definitely reap the benefits of that, allowing us to really, talking about inside the box, focus on our mission. So not any of the distractions. Yes, we're working through the crisis at the Champion for Children Foundation. We're all about what are we doing to support our families who are, like everyone in this room, everyone across the globe, facing a global pandemic. So how can we continue providing these services and these support systems? So 100% get rid of all the distraction and focus on our mission inside that box. But we were able to do that because of how we had already set up our team and really our support systems. One thing that we did was we went completely virtual for a while, and while we were doing that, we had the question of the day, because even right off the bat, I think we all got tired of the phone check-ins and the virtual meetings right from the very beginning. And so we had a question of the day just to start out, touch base, yes, we're making sure we're all alive and showing up for work that day, right, even though we were all working virtually. And I was blessed because of how our team is set up, that I took a few personal days throughout the thick of COVID. And it was really neat to see, that was for my mental health, but my team didn't miss a beat. And they picked that up, they asked the questions of the day, did all their check-ins. They asked better questions than I did. And it was refreshing when I would come back the next day or the day after and read back through all of the questions. And we learned a lot about each other. Some were work-related, some were more personal, some was things that we don't know about each other yet. And so it was kind of a way to uplift each other and support each other, but it was really neat to reap those benefits and see how they didn't miss a beat. They just picked up and they carried on, because that's not something that any of us can do by ourselves. It definitely has to be that whole team environment.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you so much. Tito, you look like you have something to add. Let's hear it.
Yes, one thing from the faith-based group, one thing that we had to realize is that church would never be the same again.
Yeah.
That was something that I don't think any pastor was ready to just jump into and say, I have the solution.
Right.
Would have been great, but no. On top of members or even myself also ending up in ICU with the whole thing going on. So when you look at this, your box can get really tight, like Doctor said. And but the great thing about the Abide churches, to all my pastoral friends, we all kind of banded together.
Yeah.
And what happened was us coming together enlarged our box, because what might not be working for you, whatever you're bouncing off of your team might work for me. And just like how businesses collaborate, we were collaborating on how do we go through this thing. And it caused us to actually look at the details of what we have in our boxes and see what do we have to make this thing happen. The whole church changed, and now it became about how you view church from outside, from your home. And so it caused churches like myself, we had to change our streaming strategies. We had to upgrade certain things that we kind of neglected along the way, because it was all about being in the church. So I think it kind of pushed us to a new level of what we need to focus on, and sometimes we neglect.
And leaders going together and growing together, just like you did with the Abide community of churches. So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Warden Baldridge, next question specifically for you. Last year was your first year at the Global Leadership Summit. So would you mind sharing how you were able to specifically implement some of the takeaways that you took from last year's summit?
I'm like, is it working? I can tell you that it was a great reminder that it's not by accident that we are where we are.
Yeah.
And it was refreshing to see the time management, for people to say, yes, you're tired, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Just set your day through, do what you can do, and tomorrow's another day, and tomorrow's another day. It was a reminder that and I think everybody used the same word of resources. You know, we manage our resources, we manage our money very well, we had everything in place, we had everything coming up, but it reminded me that we don't manage people. We lead people.
Absolutely.
Resources we use and we function and we do the checks and balances, but we lead people. And it took for us to get back, some of us out back into that field, because I'm sure the sheriff has a lot of office work, a lot of emails, a lot of that stuff, but to see our face out there and say, you know what, let me help you be part of what we're doing.
Right.
Especially with the mass amount of people that we have that work for us. I looked at it this morning, 90,000 inmates, 22,000 officers statewide.
Wow.
And we were like you. We had to reach out to our other facilities whenever our staffing levels did get so low, either by vacancy rate or by illness or however it may be. We had to reach out to those other institutions and say, I need this many, I need that many. And thank goodness they came to our aid and to each other's aid.
Right.
And that was at all levels. And you talk about the fatigue. Our executive leadership team in Tallahassee actually allowed us to do, which to us we had never heard of during a crisis or emergency situation, 4 10-hour days. So that would give us either the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, so our leadership could just go home and have 3 good days to be home. Of course, you had a laptop, you had the phone and all that with you, but at least, you had all that still with you, but at least you were there.
Right.
So it really reminded me that resources money, resources buildings, resources vehicles,
Yeah.
People is who we lead.
Yeah.
And we're leading them into, and I always reminded my guys or tried to tell them, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you can talk about you went through the COVID crisis and helped plan and replan what legislation will say later on for our prison system.
Right.
That's number 3 in the United States. So this is, it's a historical time for us, it really is.
Yeah, definitely. But thank you for the reminder for each of us today that you manage resources, but you lead your people. And that's something that we can all take away today. So what a great reminder that you were able to get from the Global Leadership Summit last year. Pastor Tito, similar question. So within your church, what were you able to take from last year's Global Leadership Summit and put into practice by leading a church through the pandemic?
Well, one thing that stuck with me, and it still is with me, is the rhythm. How everything has to work together in order to accomplish the goal. And as long as everybody is working at their pace, finding the right pace, and everybody's going along the same direction, you will accomplish what you're trying to do. And I feel, even though we're nowhere near where we need to be because of decision fatigue, but we have accomplished and we've started the movement back to where we're going again, and everybody's going along the same pace. And that is so important when you have to look around, and when the ones you look at, the ones that's surrounding you on your team are ones who are beating the right drum at the right time.
Yeah.
So that's one thing, pace. So everybody staying on beat together, going on at the same time.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. Sheriff Blackman, I think it was 2 years ago, there's phenomenal speakers at the Global Leadership Summit. You guys are going to see some of the lineup for this year, and you're going to be so excited because from all different industries. It's not one specific industry that's represented at the Global Leadership Summit, but there was one in particular that I think stood out to you. Was it the FBI hostage negotiator?
Oh, Chris Voss. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Can you tell us a little bit about why that was kind of impactful for you?
Well, for those of you that don't know, Chris Voss is an FBI negotiator, pretty famous, and he has written a book, which I have the book, and I destroy a book for whatever reason when I read it. It's Garrett,
take good
who's
notes.
Here. I write in the book, I put markers in, and my wife says, "You're ruining the book." So, but anyway, so I can refer back to it later on. But yes, Mr. Voss in that leadership summit we initially went to, it really struck a chord with me on the art of negotiation and the art of not just with, for example, me and the Board of County Commission or the warden here with the state level and trying to negotiate what you have for your organization, but really the art of negotiation with our people.
Right.
And how we communicate with them, and how we try to get the most we can out of our folks, and have them give us the most that they can possibly give us, and they want to give us that dedication. So that is what I picked up from the initial GLS that I was able to go to, and then last year with the one that we actually brought to the sheriff's office, which was, and I hope they offer that again this year. They did it last year because of the pandemic, but we were fortunate enough that we were able to bring that to our organization and have all of our members attend. So because of shift work and just the 24/7 aspect of law enforcement, we were able to record those and bring our members in so everybody could see that, and I hope they continue to do that this year.
Yeah, you saw the impact in that.
Yes, absolutely. So everybody at the sheriff's office had the ability to go to that training, and it was really great for us.
That's wonderful. We're excited. So Carissa, last year you brought your whole executive board to the Global Leadership Summit. So I mean, they came, they represented, they had a table and a half, I think. So how did that change this past year, having your whole executive team at the Global Leadership Summit, learning some of these same leadership principles? Tell us about what this last year looked like after going through that together.
Yes, we were very, very blessed. I as well, it was probably about 2.5 years ago when I first heard about the GLS, and then so thankful for the Grace Bible team bringing that here to Highlands County, because it makes it more feasible for more of our members to attend, whether you're able to bring it virtually into your environment here or to come together as a community. And obviously what we do are all about community. So to be able to come, and even in the midst of a pandemic, so a smaller group than hopefully we'll have this coming year, but to sit with fellow members across the community, but then have my own team there, was an incredible, incredible blessing. So we're so grateful that the Grace Bible team still pushed forward and brought that to us last year, even in the midst of all of the pandemic and everything else going on. I would say, though, one of the things that stuck out to me, and you will hear it over and over, is when the leaders get better, everyone gets better.
Yeah.
And if you truly believe that leaders are people who have influence on people around them, or the potential to influence those around them, that's everybody. I mean, is there anyone in this room that doesn't influence the people who are sitting next to us, the people at home with us, our neighbors, and then definitely those that we get to work with? And so having my entire team and a handful of my board members as well attend together, I really felt like helped us kind of be ahead of the game when we went back that next Monday to sit down and kind of brainstorm and talk through what does this mean for us as a foundation. Because it's beneficial if you can go and you go attend a training, that's great, right? You bring it back, here's what I learned, let me tell my team about it. But when your team is sitting here together and you're all experiencing this at the same time, we all absorb that according to our own backgrounds, our own talents, our own experiences, and then as we're listening to these speakers, you apply that to your own position and what you're responsible for. So it already starts on this deeper level than if I just had gone back and told my team, hey, here's what I learned, I went to the Global Leadership Summit and da-da-da-da. But because my team all got to experience that and kind of hear the speakers, be encouraged in their own lives, we jumped right back in on a whole different level. And I think he started last year saying, lead through the dip. Now, we're not cool enough to walk around the office going, we're leading through the dip. But we did take a lot of that verbiage. And so when we came back together and said, okay, let's get, we're thinking inside the box, focusing on our mission, how can we started talking about how can we not just make it through it, but how can we come out of this and really be better? How can we be stronger? So let's get rid of the distraction and evaluate how we're moving forward with our mission. And we all had that same verbiage. So we got to really hit the ground running. And I was very, very blessed because my team all experienced these speakers. We were encouraged in our own lives and in our own positions, and we're able to bring that back together and jump right in and start tackling what we had ahead of us. And I think you just get a lot more of that deeper level buy-in and the excitement, as opposed to if I had just come back and said, oh, here, I learned some really good things, let me share it with you. So it was definitely an incredible encouragement to our team, but to be able to experience that together, I would strongly encourage whether you bring that to your teams or you come here physically together this year and we can experience experience it as a community in this room, it is an incredible blessing, and we definitely reaped a lot of those benefits.
That's awesome. We're so glad that it was so instrumental to you as a leader, but also to your whole team. Dr. Chen, I am told that leadership development is a really high value in your world, both professionally and personally. Can you speak to why that's so important and how you're implementing the importance of that?
As leaders of the community, I think we all understand why that ends up being so important, especially through times like we've been through. And yeah, it's another meeting, it's another training, it's another experience, if you will. And it's important. The pandemic kind of hindered that a little bit. We ended up having to do it a different way.
Right.
But the important thing is that you don't stop. You just continue to develop people. And the why is because you're going to have a lot more impact that way. I think newcomers to our team are already coached up into that during the onboarding process of being hired. We hope they understand that they're joining something that's not just dentistry, it's not just a job, but
Right.
you know, you're actually being a part of something that's, well, as our vision statement says, developing leaders beyond dentistry.
Wow.
So, you know, you're becoming something other than, you know, just the everyday thing. I mean, like, there is purpose in what we do. And so we kind of try to instill that on early in the process. So I think they understand why it's so important to be involved, why it's so important to give back, why it's so important to come to work charged and ready to go to serve others.
Yeah.
And so for us, I think that's the, you know, hopefully they understand the why behind it. What was the other part of the question?
Yeah, so how are you doing that? So you touched briefly on, you
How?
said your onboarding process. By the time someone new already starts, they know that leadership is really important to your organization. So how are some ways, maybe like the Global Leadership Summit, or others
Right.
that you guys are implementing?
So yeah. So how it happens, there's a number of reasons how, but of course, summits and things like that are very useful to create the experience that's outside of our box. I mean, sure, why can't we just do it ourselves within the four walls that we have?
Right.
But you know, being able to credentialize that same information through an experience outside of your office or your organization is very important to hear it from somebody else and know that there are other people just like you doing this. And as Pastor Tito was saying, like, as you come together with other people in your own industry, you'll start to find that you have more impact together.
Absolutely.
So summits are a great way to get together. We do summits as well with other organizations, and with this organization would be nice too. So, but any experience that you can get outside with similar minds, you're going to find growth. And I think that's super important for organizations to make that a must or a requirement that you will grow. Like, people are very uncomfortable with growth. They just kind of sometimes want to maintain, which there's nothing wrong with that. But when you come in an organization knowing that that's what we do, we just want to be really clear and upfront with them that when you are onboarded with processes, I'll be corrected, but like sometimes it takes weeks or 6 visits before you're actually hired.
Yeah.
It's not one of those where you show up and you get to say, oh, you're hired.
Okay.
Okay, it's a process. I think I'm the very last part of the process. You know, initially you're like, you walk into your interview, you're thinking, I'm going to see Dr. Chen. Well, no, that's like 6 visits later.
Right.
Because at that point you have to go through the process of meeting the team, because that's where we're going to be, right?
Right.
But anyhow,
No, that's
part,
awesome.
part of the how.
Yeah. Tell me your vision one more time at your organization.
Leaders serving the community beyond dentistry.
Leaders serving the community beyond dentistry. And that's such a neat piece of wisdom that we can all take, because we're not just worried about the industry that we're working in or living in that day, but it's in the everyday, ordinary stuff of life that we can lead individuals or make a gospel deposit or make a difference right where you're at, because we all are leaders and have influence right around us. So I just want to say thank you to you guys. Can you give them a round of applause? Thank you for our panelists who are sharing some of the highs and lows. We know that this year was hard for all industries across the board, and it takes leaders going and growing together, thinking inside the box to make real impact, measurable impact right here in our community. Before we end our time together, we are going to show you a brief clip that's going to show you a little bit about this year's Global Leadership Summit. But I'm really excited. We have a special guest with us this morning, outside of these special guests up here and all of you out here. But we have a special guest with us. His name is Jason Beckner. He is the National Field Team Director for the Global Leadership Network. He flew in from Birmingham last night to be with us this evening to kind of champion us, to cheer us on. Yes, let's clap for him. to champion and to cheer us on as we dive into hosting our second Global Leadership Summit. But he really wants to remind every single one of us this morning that what's really possible when we come together is that we can become better together. So as he comes to the stage, can you welcome Jason, and then we're going to watch a brief video as he makes his way up here.
Leadership is not a title.
It's not found in a corporate office after years on the job.
It's not limited by age.
It's not even about business.
Leadership is a relationship.
It's understanding others' ideas.
It's listening.
It's recognizing the value in those around you.
Will you be the leaders that challenge us to aim higher?
Dream bigger and shine brighter?
Join your peers to learn a fresh perspective.
On August 5th and 6th at the Global Leadership Summit.
Leadership is influence.
Everyone has influence.
We see the influence in our community.
Do you?
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 Well, man, what a great morning. This has been so cool. I need to take Carissa with me everywhere I go because she literally just hit the nail on the head. So that was awesome. My name's Jason Beckner. I live in Birmingham, but I am actually from Sarasota, Florida, so not too far away from here. And I went to college in West Palm Beach, so I think I probably kind of drove past here all the time, going back and forth. So one of my favorite things that I get to do is spend time in rooms like this with leaders like you all. It is so neat just to see the panel up here and just the diversity and the different sectors of the community coming together. And so I think you'll see that at the summit as well. You'll have one of the things that we love about the summit is it is a great convener of the community, and you have all different sectors of all different types of people coming together. And so just want to share just a couple things as we close. I want to encourage you all a little bit. So when I think about the summit, I typically think about the speakers and the content, and we've got some great ones. We've got Malcolm Gladwell going to be there this year. Craig Groeschel, who you just heard from, he'll be there. We've got a gal by the name of Jamie Kern-Lima. She started IT Cosmetics, and I believe was the first woman to sell a company for over $1 billion. So she'll be there. She has a New York Times bestseller. I think about all the great content. I think about all of the great speakers. But one thing that you heard here, and I think that I miss sometimes, and I want to encourage you with, especially after this past year, is the summit is such an encouragement. Not just the content's great, but being together, being with other people before the summit starts, after the summit ends, during the breaks, during lunch. With this past year, it's been such a heavy year. It's been such a difficult year. You're probably tired. Your people in your organizations, in your companies are probably tired, and it's just been a difficult year. And so being together with others, with other like-minded leaders is so encouraging. So don't miss that. I typically forget about that on the front end, and then afterwards I walk out and I'm like, gosh, that was so good for my soul. That was so good for my heart, and not only my mind. So I definitely want you to remember that. And then the other challenge I want to give you this morning, and I'm going to talk a little bit about just some of the logistics, but the other challenge I want to give you this morning is when you're thinking about your personal leadership development, I sometimes have a tendency to get the blinders on, and I can't kind of think about me getting better as a leader, me taking next steps. And sometimes I forget that this is a journey that's best traveled with other people. And so I want to encourage you. In fact, I've got a story about myself that I tell. So we had a leadership breakfast at our church. Jeff Henderson was coming to speak, and I was so excited. I signed up for it. I was so proud of myself. Like I'm a leader. I signed up for this deal. I go home and I tell my wife, I'm like, babe, I signed up for this leadership breakfast. I wanted some kudos and a little pat on the back. And she was like, that is so great. I'm so proud of you. Who'd you invite? Who are you bringing with you? Who's coming along on the journey with you? And I said, well, see, what happened was I didn't invite anybody. So I went back and I sent a text and I made some phone calls and I brought some folks. And I just want to encourage you all to think about, who are you going to bring along with you? You have people in your organization, in your business, obviously, that you want to come along. Carissa said that great. But there are other people in the community. There are other people that, as you look around, you can see that they may be struggling. They may need some encouragement. They may just need some training. And so thinking about those other people, think about the people that you want to bring along with you, is really, really important as you're thinking about not only your personal leadership. And we know that, we've said it a few times, you're going to hear it a few more if you come to the summit, that when a leader gets better, everyone wins. And so the organizations that they lead get better, the teams that they're on get better, the businesses, the restaurants, the churches, the communities, they all get better when a leader gets better. So just wanted to leave you with that, encourage you with that. A couple things just on the logistical side. You should have some brochures on your table. Feel free to take those for yourself, take those for other people. I believe there's also a QR code on the little placard. If you take a picture of that, that'll give you some more information there. A couple of neat things that we've had happen over the last couple of years. One is we actually have worked with the American Nursing Association. And so every nurse that pays and attends actually gets 11.25 continuing credit hours for their continuing ed. I've talked with some nurses that say, we don't care if we're sitting in a dark room with the lights off and no one talks to us for 2 days and $100, that's incredible to get that many credit hours. So as you're thinking about that, as you're thinking about other folks in the nursing industry, hospitals, healthcare, that's a great opportunity for them. And then last year, because of COVID, I'm going to take every good thing I can from COVID, so whatever it gives me, I'm going to take it. But last year, we kind of developed the option and the opportunity for you all to stream the summit to your organization. If you can't come, if you can't take 2 days out of the office, maybe you're not comfortable being with a big group, or maybe you want to split it. Maybe you want to come one day, be here, and maybe you want to do the next day in your office, in your conference room, streaming it on your TVs, however that might be. There is an option for that. So I just want to encourage you that you all can do that, and individually as well. If for some reason you can't make it, you can do that individually. So talk to Cameron. He will help you with all of that, get you taken care of, and then he'll help you just kind of work out all the logistics.
I wanted to jump up here and ask you a quick question. Yeah. No one's profiting from this Global Leadership Summit. We're certainly not. One of the great things about the Global Leadership Summit, and you guys are in your 26th, 27th year, tell them just briefly about the international footprint that GLS does and how it is committed to raising up leaders in indigenous countries, third world countries, and prisons, actually. Yeah,
it's great. So we're a nonprofit, and I'll give you a quick kind of high level. About 70% of our overhead is covered by revenue from the summit, and then we fundraise about 30%. All of that 30% goes to international, so we'll have about 1,000 sites and about 300,000 people that attend internationally. And also a portion of that goes to prisons. We're actually in about 100 prisons here in the States. A portion of the 70% goes to that as well. So what's really neat is when you buy a registration, or when you buy a registration for somebody else to attend here, you're actually helping fund what's going on in other countries. We're super fortunate. We're a click away from great content here. But you get to some other countries where they just don't have the infrastructure, the access, and so there's a real neat opportunity. And we even have some of our churches that have relationships with other churches or ministries in other countries that sponsor. Same thing with prisons that have the opportunity to sponsor what's going on in a local prison. So.
Yeah, we're working on getting you out of Avon Park Correctional Institute as well.
That's right.
Yeah, Jason, thank you so much for being here, for flying in for this event. Folks, I want to thank you so much for coming and being here. If you are interested in signing up and grabbing tickets, like Jason said, there's a QR code on your table. Just open up your camera on your phone, and it'll take you to a link. Or we've got some tablets available to log you on. And I did want to thank Ansley Emily Wood. She's the Vice President of Resource Development at United Way of Central Florida. Thank you, Ansley, for moderating for us this morning. Thank you guys for hanging around. We're going to be emailing you and letting you know when we go live with this panel summit. We would love for you guys, with the video of this event, we'd love for you to share it, to tag other friends, and we would love to see you back here August 5th and 6th, Thursday, Friday. It is a 2-day event. We'll be hosting right here, and we believe that when leaders get better, everybody gets better. So thanks for your time. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful week.